You're listening to The Tom Daniel Show, and I'm your host, Tom Daniel. So what does it really mean to understand the lives of our ancestors? And it's so much more than just the basics, the names, dates, places, documents, etc. A true family story goes so much deeper than that, but over time it will dehydrate back down into nothing but names, dates, places, and documents. And that's all you're left with. The trick is to know how to reconstitute all those facts back into the gruesome, messy realities of daily life. In this rather vivid installment of my Tangled Roots Family Tree series, I want to explore some of those messy realities of frontier life that faced my ancestors. I want to push past all those simplified stories we often get about those times and look at the brutal and violent realities. Now, when I was a kid, the only viewpoint you could get about frontier life is that all Indians were treacherous, bloodthirsty savages who couldn't be trusted, and all white settlers were angelic, reverent nobles who were simply defending their families and property. Well, now in the 21st century, every aspect of that viewpoint has completely flipped to the opposite. It's now the white settlers that were all treacherous, bloodthirsty savages who couldn't be trusted, and the Indians who were all angelic, reverent nobles protecting their land and family. Now, as a reasonably intelligent person, I'm smart enough to know that the reality is a heaping helping of both. Both are correct. Indians and settlers alike were both populated with treachery and nobility. It would be naive and stupid to believe otherwise. Humans are humans. They always have been. No matter the century, the culture, the motivation, and history is loaded with inspiring and disgusting examples of both. Always has been, always will be. Therefore, my purpose in this installment of Tangled Roots is not to pass judgment, lay blame, justify behavior, prove a point, etc. None of that. I simply want to talk about my ancestors and the reality of frontier life they faced on a daily basis to really get what shaped them. As Chris Rock kinda once said, I may not agree with them, but I understand them. So allow me to introduce two more of my ancestors, Michael Coleman, the son of a Scottish immigrant, and his son John Coleman. Michael is my sixth great-grandfather and related to me through the Neff family. That particular bloodline is described in the Tangled Roots episode called The Ohio Surprise. We tend to immediately think of Oklahoma when we think of America's frontier past. However, during the time of colonial America, Pennsylvania was the frontier. Michael Coleman was born in the Pennsylvania colony in 1740, the son of Dr. James Daniel Coleman and Johnnie Mae Sturdivant. Dr. Coleman immigrated from Scotland to Appalachian, Pennsylvania, got married in 1738, and had 4 sons who were all raised along the Susquehanna River's western branch. Michael Coleman's most unique physical characteristic was that he was double-crowned, which meant he basically had 2 heads of hair. A hair naturally grows around a central point of the head in a circular pattern, a whorl. People with double crowns have 2 independent central points located a few inches away from each other on the scalp, which resembles 2 heads of hair. Now, it's a rare trait affecting only 5% of the general population. Now, I had never heard of double-crowned before, and if I know someone who has it, I'm not aware of it. However, I spoke with a hairstylist about this, and I learned that someone who's double-crowned has a really tricky time with short hair, as it sticks out all over the place in random directions like cowlicks gone haywire. The only way to handsomely sport a double crown is with a thick, luxurious head of hair. Foreshadowing noted. Now, in 1763, Michael and his two younger brothers, Thomas and John, were hunting along a branch of the Susquehanna River near what is now Logan Township in Blair County, Pennsylvania. Young John stayed at camp while Michael and Thomas went deeper into the territory to hunt. Shawnee Indians came upon the camp and killed 13-year-old John by boiling him to death in a kettle. Oh, it's just horrific. An unimaginable way to die. Absolutely brutal. And he was just a kid. And when Michael and Thomas returned to camp to find their little brother horribly murdered like that, they buried him right at the spot. And this would not be the last time Michael would come face to face with hostile Indians. Now, the Shawnee were the fiercest of all the Algonquian tribes along the Ohio River in what is present-day Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Now, if you remember your American history, you might remember an old campaign slogan of the Whig Party in 1840 that said, "Tippecanoe and Tyler too." Tippecanoe refers to the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811 between the Shawnee, led by Tecumseh's brother, and U.S. forces led by William Henry Harrison. The campaign slogan of Tippecanoe and Tyler too was actually a campaign song and was the first time in American history that a song was used to promote a presidential campaign. But as usual, I'm digressing here. Let me get back on topic. The Shawnee were infamous for their guerrilla tactics, as they used the forests, rivers, and terrain of the Ohio Valley to their advantage. They typically launched swift ambushes and then quickly disappeared before anyone had time to respond. Although they did participate in the more traditional pitched battles, especially when they were aligned with a friendly force, their legendary expertise was with the raids and skirmishes involving small war parties. Now, after this horrible loss, Michael's life went on. He and his young wife Polly already had 2 children by this point, John and Sarah, and they would go on to have 6 children in all. Michael joined the Bedford County Militia in Pennsylvania in 1778 and is a certified Revolutionary War ancestor. In April 1787, Michael moved his family along with 4 other Scottish families from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, 300 miles away to Fort Belville, Virginia, where he performed regular garrison duties. Now, as far as timeline is concerned, this is after the end of the American Revolution, but before the ratification of the Constitution or the statehood of either Pennsylvania or Virginia. Also, the present-day site of Fort Belville is now in what's called West Virginia, as that part of the state broke away from Virginia in 1863. There was no West Virginia in 1787, but there was a Fort Belville on the Ohio River. Now, when we come back, we'll see what kind of tragedy follows Michael Coleman to his new home. You're listening to The Tom Daniels Show. We'll be right back.
What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show.
Welcome back to the Tom Daniels Show. Man, Mary Mac is taking me back to Appalachia. Mary Mac is the world's most perfect band. And we were talking about my 6th great-grandfather, Michael Coleman, and his survival in a brutal world of frontier life. In February 1793, Michael, his son John, and 2 other men were out hunting along the Ohio River, and they camped near the mouth of Big Mill Creek about 25 miles south of Fort Belville. They were seeking to replenish food supplies for the fort, a crucial mission, and they were in a pirogue, which is a type of dugout canoe with a flat bottom, which allows it to navigate shallow waters. The hunting was extremely good, and within a few days they were able to load their boat with a big supply of venison and bear meat. But then, frontier life strikes again. Nature intervened, and the creek where they were camped froze over while they were hunting, and they were not able to get back to the Ohio River. Their boat was stuck in the ice, and they'd already gathered too much meat to be able to haul it overland back to the fort. Therefore, since the hunting was so good, they decided to split up. John Coleman and one of the other men, Elijah Pixley, would hike back overland to Fort Belleville and return in a few days with fresh supplies, while Michael Coleman and the other man, James Ryan, remained behind to guard the hunting camp and the meat and maybe hunt some more. And that's when things went horribly wrong. On the morning of February 3rd, 1793, Shawnee Indians came upon Michael and James Ryan eating breakfast at the camp and ambushed them while they were at their most vulnerable, saying the blessing over their food. Michael was shot and killed, while a wounded James Ryan managed to escape and fled back to the fort, telling everyone about the attack. Upon receiving the devastating news, John Coleman immediately returned back to the hunting camp along with several men from the fort, where they discovered his father's body. It was true. Michael Coleman had indeed been ambushed and killed. And then some. So let's say you're an Indian who's just killed a man. I mean, he's lying there dead right in front of you, and he's got what appears to be 2 heads of long, luxurious hair. Now, you can get like $400 per scalp, so why wouldn't you? Well, he did. Michael was scalped twice. He was killed, double scalped, stripped of his clothing, the camp plundered, and all the supplies gone. Michael Coleman was buried right where his body was discovered in a very similar fashion to the way his own little brother had been buried right where he died after a Shawnee attack. And an historic marker today actually marks the very spot at present-day Cottageville, West Virginia. So now think about John Coleman. His Uncle John had been boiled alive by Shawnee Indians in 1763, and his father Michael killed and double scalped 30 years later, also by the Shawnee. These events completely changed him. John Coleman, my 5th great-grandfather who had lost his uncle and father to Shawnee Indian ambushes, became a notorious Indian fighter. He and his other uncle, Thomas, the other surviving boy whose little brother was boiled to death, were the most greatly feared Indian killers in Pennsylvania. And John had a lot in common with the real-life Robert Redford character Jeremiah Johnson, who waged a similar revenge war against the Crow Indians. But John Coleman didn't just react with blind rage. He was methodical. He studied the Shawnee and learned their ways of stealth, stalking, and ambush, and he used their own methods against them. John Coleman waged a personal war against the Shawnee and never missed an opportunity to run down and kill every one of them that crossed his path. He was able to spot Indian war parties and warn the settlers, often taking the fight straight to the attacking Indians, and helped defend frontier forts. When Indian war parties learned that John Coleman was nearby, they disbanded and broke off the attack. It's said that due to the reputation and presence of John Coleman, only one settler in all of Logan's Valley, Pennsylvania, was killed by Indians, as compared to several in other nearby areas. It was a testament to how one person's actions, driven by revenge or protection, could shape survival on the frontier. John Coleman died in present-day West Virginia sometime around 1825. So, what a tremendous family arc. From Scottish immigrant roots through these horrendous personal losses due to frontier violence, leading to John Coleman becoming such a feared figure who adopted his enemy's tactics. It's a cycle of violence born from trauma and a reminder that reality is complex, a mix of treachery and nobility. John Coleman's story is part of that messy reality. It's got nothing to do with whether or not his actions were right, but about understanding the extreme pressures and devastating events that led to those actions. The intense human cost of that period pushes past the simple narrative. You can see how people like Michael and John were shaped profoundly by these violent events and how they reacted. The double-crowned head, the double scalping, the boiling alive of a little boy, the ambush during a blessing, the studying of Shawnee tactics, John's impact on the settling of Logan's Valley. Those aren't just facts. They really paint a picture of the raw, brutal nature of life back then, how trauma can cascade, and should make us all wonder how we would fare in those kinds of circumstances. Wrestling with thoughts like these are a good thing for our culture in the long run. One-sided thinking always leads to stagnation. Looking at the big picture, no matter how disturbing, always brings life into better focus. This has been the Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening. Keep learning.
Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Take a break from your usual routine. Tune in to the Tom Daniel Show. You'll discover the world of melodies and stories that you might not know. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show.